Tender process.
The entire tender process?
The entire tender process.
For the facade?
For the facade, okay. For the facade, tender process, for the facade. Right, what we did is, we did all the details. We have the general geometry, we defined tolerances, we defined the final grid, we defined which details. And actually for the tender process, we also need to sketch into the details. So this is what is done. This is a drawing process, a drawing set, which defines the object we'd like to get built. Now we need to find someone who's going to build it. We are the designers, the engineers. Now we need someone who's going to build it.
So facade contractors.
Facade contractors. So we ask facade contractors, can you please build this? And most important, we don't want to just ask one. We want to get a serious offer. We want to get a kind of an idea of this is the price this is going to cost.
Yeah, but we want to have the best possible, isn't it?
We want to have the best possible. Question is, what is best possible? It's budget, yes, no question. It's quality, no question. And it's the time necessary when this is done, if it fits in our, say, construction schedule.
And in principle, we owe our client
the best quality.
The best quality for the lowest price in principle, isn't it? In an ideal world.
In a time frame.
In a time frame.
In a time frame. So time is also quite an important aspect. So what we do is we're not going to ask, here, dear contractor, can you build this? We're going to ask a bunch of contractors, can you please look at this? How do we do that? We take these details and we ask them to develop that. And I took a catalog detail, and when we look at, for example, this quality and this information depth in here and this quality information depth in here, it's obviously a different setting. And that's on purpose. Because this is by one company, which is a system supplier. We may have other companies who are dealing with the same kind of technical performance, but are different system suppliers. So we don't want to have every information of one system entirely integrated in our designs. We want to have it more abstract in a general setting, defining everything which is necessary, which is what we did in here, but it's not totally all screws defined.
So in principle, you're defining a car with 4 wheels, black color, leather color interior, and 300 to 400 horsepower, and a circular badge on the hood.
Horsepower and badge on the hood.
Yeah, but it's kind of, isn't it? Right. So you try to
but we also describe a certain look, because the geometry and the depth and the surfaces, which means it's the one type of the car or the other type of car, that's what we define. So we need to be, say, open in that tender process. And second thing, we did now sketch the whole setting in aluminium.
Yeah.
Maybe some of the contractors have a better solution in steel. So we may make it even that open.
But that's a discussion with the architect also. No? There might be also preferences, aesthetics.
Absolutely. That's a discussion with and it's say a discussion of how open are we going to organize our tender process. So are you going to be in the end even with timber? Total different appearance, discussion with the architect, but it's a bit of the definition of how deep, how precise do we go with the details. So do we go really super deep in one type of detail, then fix to a system supplier, and then you have contractors serving that one? Or are we making it more open so that you have opportunities for other systems to go for the same job, or are we really going to make it open for all the different types of opportunities? So we reduce the information which we may get out of the catalog, which we may investigate to secure it's buildable. So we need to prove it's possible to be built, but we also need to leave space to the contractors who are going to bid for the tendering, that this is, say, also with their systems and their best experiences to be done.
I understand the openness that you would allow the contractors to come with their own ideas, with their own solutions for the same problem, let's say, in order to get the best price and quality. But how do you judge the income? So they will, when you receive their quotes, they also send a set of drawings. Hey, you've asked that.
Yeah.
We would like to solve it like that.
Yeah.
And then you sit together and judge the ideas?
That's exactly the second step of the tender process, conversation with companies.
Okay.
So you need to identify a number of companies which are interested. They need to understand what you want. They also need to understand, for example, the discussion we just had about which kind of system we're going for. Okay, if the designer, the architect wants an aluminium stick system, well, then we stick to the aluminium stick system. Then it's not going to be a different one.
At the very end, it's kind of like put these things on the table. You can actually see.
Exactly. Which one is it going to be?
Yeah.
And if this is decided, then the contractor needs to understand why you choose these details. We made this selection of details. They may come and say, oh, I need another setting here. This is a complex situation. We are not sure about this. What kind of surroundings do we have? How good can we connect things? Which we investigated in our engineering process. It's a concrete wall, so you pretty easily can drill into. Yeah. But they may come with specific questions. This is a very important period in this tendering process as well, negotiations with the potential partners. And then they come with a quotation. They say, this is our budget. This is what we need. And then again, you need to start talking to them. So they come with alternative solutions. They come with an alternative system supplier and say, this performs the same quality. Then we have to investigate if this alternative system does deliver the performance we want. So we need to dig into, they say, technical performances to see if this works, if the size is the same, if the geometry is the same, if, say, the connection details, the water tightness, air tightness is given as we want this. This is another process, a consequence of the quotation. We have to evaluate the quotation and we need to see if budget, quality and time are...
Often you see within these quotes, even if you ask someone to fix your car or whatsoever, they can't tell you right now what it will exactly cost. There's kind of like, there's a price of a couple of materials and products involved, but then they have to, maybe there's something unknown. There has to be problem solved on the building side, which only adds up later on. Oh, we took more time than expected. How do you make sure that that's somehow also fixed? Because there might be someone who said, hey, we make a lower price, but at the very end, we get our money because we know we have these clauses in our offer that if something happens uncertain, unknown, whatsoever, we are able to charge extra. How do you make sure that this is sort of comparable to each other? Because at the very end, we don't want to end up with the price twice high because there's unknown things. We should be able to put that already in the drawings, isn't it?
No, this is not the drawing. The drawing gives the technical geometry. There's going to be a description of the project and the technical performance as well, which is the thing they're going to build. And then there's the contract, the construction contract.
Yeah.
And that's something which defines what happens if uncertainty appears, if, say, problems appears, if things are not finished. And this is this negotiation phase.
Okay.
So you need to see, okay, this is what they want to do. This is their alternative product. This is the budget for the alternative product. Budget, product, performance. You need to know that the company is capable to deal with this product. Okay, that's a quality question. And then there comes time. And time means also money in the means of what's the process, what's the logistic, what's the timeline, when can they go to site, when can they do build, what do they get at supplies at site. That's, say, the construction contract. It's not the pure definition of the facade. This is actually a different...
Yeah, we had this also on a very tight center of the city building site where logistics and time was actually leading.
How much can you store?
Yeah, precisely. So therefore, this is kind of like, there was a company who actually had a plot somewhere in the city where they can store things in between. So therefore, they were able to secure, and this made it the choice towards him.
But that's not purely facade engineer.
Yeah.
It's site management and construction contract.
Yeah.
So yes, we touch this, and yes, in this environment we need to also negotiate this. Yeah. But it's not the core business of the facade engineer.
No, but it also sort of is part of it in general.
And then, as I say, final pricing after these 2 rounds of negotiation and the quotation by the company, which leads you with, say, a budget they expect. It leads you with a timeline they are able and capable to deal with, which means they have to pre-manufacture things, order things, bring them to site at the right moment, get them installed at the right moment with all the, say, logistical dependencies of the other disciplines. And then the quality of the system they're going to install needs to perform. These 3 we have to evaluate to offer to our client that this is something which we believe is the most feasible. Total uncertainties are impossible to be covered in this kind of contracts. An issue. If you push too much the price, if you
squeeze it
till the end, it's going to pay back at some point. Yeah. It's going to strike back in the means of then timeline comes a problem, or the contractor constantly has to argue about certain things, or you get lower quality because they need to make their business as well. They need to be able to build something in their environment. So if you squeeze it too much, you reduce price, but you reduce also quality. That's a direct dependency. I'm finishing this with this nice quote by Rem Koolhaas, who says, no money, no detail.
Yeah, okay.
So if there's too little money, the detail quality is going to be very little, and then it's going to last not for the whole time, but just half of the budget, half the time.
One last question. You mentioned the openness in order to give them leeway to find better solutions that makes them more comfortable in lowering the price, maybe speed up the process. We've already decided for our system for our project a stick system.
Yes.
What if someone comes, hey, with that sharp time management, we would like to do this in a unitized facade. We'll change the look of it.
It will change the look of it. Yeah? So
for my personal opinion, I would say it will be more expensive. But if they say, hey, for the same price,
this may be an offer, and then you go back to the whole system and say, okay, this was what we were designing. Dear architect, dear client, the unitized system will be a bit thicker, maybe the same geometry, but the size will be maybe different. Logistic-wise, this makes sense. We understand this argument.
Yeah.
Is this something we can deal with?
Yeah.
And then it's to the contractor to then post-engineer all our engineering
precisely.
work,
So they have to
which is going to be the next session, the shop drawings, which we do in a minute.
Yeah.
And then they have to re-engineer the work we did to then fulfill, for example, for a unitized system to be used.
But still a possibility.
That's still a possibility. No money, no detail. Don't squeeze it too much.
Thanks.
Yep.